Welcome back to the channel, where we explore the unspoken layers of human desire, emotional truth, and the stories that shape our intimacy. Today's conversation is one many people never get to have, and yet, it affects millions in silence. We're diving into a deep truth, how shame kills pleasure, and how rewriting the story of your sexual identity can be the most liberating healing journey you'll ever take. Because pleasure is not just physical, it's deeply emotional. And if your body is holding on to shame, no matter how sensual the moment, true intimacy stays just out of reach. Let's break that cycle together. For so many people, the relationship they have with their sexuality didn't start with freedom. It started with fear. Maybe you grew up in a culture, family, or religion where sexuality was strictly controlled, moralized, or flat-out shamed. Maybe you were taught that your body was dangerous, your desires were sinful, or your thoughts were something to hide. You might have learned to disconnect from your own arousal, to suppress your fantasies, or to perform intimacy rather than enjoy it. The damage? It's subtle, but it's deep, because what begins as external messaging eventually becomes internal belief, and when you start believing that your desires make you bad or unworthy, you don't just lose your connection to pleasure, you lose a piece of your identity. Shame doesn't shout. It whispers. It tells you don't make noise, don't want too much, don't be seen. And so, people shrink in the bedroom. They apologize for taking up space. They numb out, they focus on their partner's needs, hoping to hide their own. Or they fake pleasure because the real thing feels too vulnerable to claim. Shame makes you a stranger in your own body. It disconnects you from your senses, your hunger, your instincts. You start to live in your head, policing yourself in real time. Is this okay? Am I doing it right? Do I look stupid? And just like that, the most intimate space becomes the most self-conscious one. And when the mind is in judgment, the body cannot feel. Now let's get something clear. Shame is not the same as guilt. Guilt says, I did something wrong. Shame says, I am something wrong. That's the wound. And it doesn't go away just because you're in a loving relationship. In fact, it often gets louder. People wonder why they can't enjoy sex with a partner they trust, why their body tenses up even when they feel safe, why they feel invisible even when someone is looking right at them. It's because shame doesn't disappear with time, it needs to be healed. And healing doesn't come from pushing yourself to perform. It comes from giving yourself permission to feel, without punishment, without apology. So how do you start rewriting the story of your sexual identity? First you have to ask, whose story are you living? Are your ideas of good and bad desire really yours? Or were they handed down to you by a fearful parent, a judgmental institution, or a past partner who couldn't accept your full self? If you never question the origin of your beliefs, you'll carry their weight without realizing it. You'll live under someone else's rules in your own body. And here's the truth. You are the only one who gets to define what is sacred, healthy, and beautiful about your sexuality. Second, you have to start reconnecting to your body, not just sexually but sensually. That means slowing down, tuning in, giving yourself permission to feel good without a goal. It could be as simple as taking a hot bath and letting yourself enjoy every second of warmth without guilt. It could mean dancing, touching your skin with curiosity, or exploring fantasy in private. The key is to stop framing pleasure as something you have to earn, and start claiming it as something you inherently deserve. Next, let's talk about communication. If you're in a relationship, your partner can't help you heal from shame unless you let them in. That means being honest about your insecurities, about the voices in your head that tell you you're too much or not enough. That kind of vulnerability is terrifying, but it's also powerful. Because when someone meets you in that raw place with kindness instead of judgment, something inside you starts to soften. You realize that you're not broken. You're just unpracticed in being fully seen. And that's okay, because healing isn't linear, it's a dance. Some days you'll feel free. Other days you'll slip back into old patterns. But each time you choose presence over performance, you take your power back. It's also important to understand that pleasure is not just about arousal. It's about agency. It's about reclaiming your yes, but also your no. Many people who struggle with shame also struggle with boundaries. They go along with things to please, to avoid rejection, or because they think they should. But when your body is saying no and your mouth is saying yes, you fracture the trust between your body and your mind. Healing shame means reuniting them. It means honoring your boundaries as sacred, and trusting that real intimacy doesn't require you to betray yourself. Now let's go deeper. Because sometimes, shame comes from trauma. Maybe you were shamed for your body. Maybe you were touched without consent. Maybe someone you trusted taught you that love and pain go hand in hand. In those cases, healing isn't just about pleasure, it's about safety. And that healing might require therapy, support groups, or somatic work to help you come home to your body. There's no shame in that. The real courage isn't in pushing through, it's in slowing down and saying, I deserve to feel safe in my skin. Another important piece of the puzzle is recognizing how perfectionism feeds sexual shame. So many people feel like they have to perform sex a certain way. Be confident, spontaneous, seductive, or effortlessly orgasmic, or else they're failing. But this pressure to be perfect strangles genuine connection. When you're so focused on getting it right, you forget to feel. You become an actor in your own body rather than a participant. Reclaiming your sexual identity means rejecting the myth that intimacy is a performance. It's not about being flawless, it's about being present. And sometimes presence looks like laughter, awkwardness, exploration, and emotional messiness. That's real. That's human. And that's where the real pleasure lives. Not in doing it right, but in being fully alive and connected in the moment. Lastly, we have to talk about community, because healing sexual shame in isolation is a heavy burden. One of the most transformative steps you can take is to surround yourself with people, media, and spaces that affirm sexual diversity and emotional honesty. That might mean following sex-positive educators, joining online forums, or even just having one deep, honest conversation with a friend who gets it. Community helps you unlearn shame by showing you you're not weird, broken, or alone. It's in those shared stories that you begin to feel seen. And sometimes being seen by others is what finally allows you to see yourself with compassion. Healing isn't a solo mission, it's a shared human experience, and there's power in knowing you belong. Finally, I want you to know this. Pleasure is not frivolous. It is not optional. It is not a luxury reserved for the confident or the young or the unashamed. It is your birthright, and claiming it, fully, unapologetically, is an act of rebellion against every system that ever told you otherwise. Your sexual identity isn't about fitting into a label, it's about feeling free to explore, to express, and to exist as a whole, feeling being. Whether you're straight, queer, fluid, monogamous, kinky, celibate, or still figuring it out, you deserve to live in a body that is loved, not judged. So if shame has been running the show, today, you get to start telling a new story. A story where your pleasure matters, where your voice is sacred, and where your sexuality is not a source of shame, but a celebration of who you are. Thank you for watching. If this message hit home, like the video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe for more deep, real conversations about love, intimacy, and healing. Drop a comment below and tell me, what story are you ready to rewrite about your sexuality? This is a safe space, and you are not alone.